other tunes that he's going to perform for us later on in the second segment of the interview on Overground Railroad. Neal, first of all, give us a little background of where you've been and what you've experienced in CBS and any other background that you'd like to throw in there in the mix.
Let's see, how much time you got? Basically, well, I started out quite a while ago in, I guess, the early 70s. I had some record contracts. Basically, wanted to be a rock star, that kind of thing. And I actually got 3 contracts with 3 of the majors, with Polydor, Columbia, and RCA. And nothing came of it. That's, a whole long story by itself. I mean, the day I got signed on Columbia Records, I saw on Eyewitness News that night that they fired Clive Davis, who was the president at the time. So I was basically at Columbia for 2.5 years with nothing happening. So finally they let me out of my contract. But anyway, after about, I guess, 10 years or so being with these companies and not a whole lot happening, I did have one charted record that was kind of a dance club top 10 thing called In the Jungle. And that was on RCA. And that was a thing about them cutting down the rainforest to build roads. This is, I believe this is before Sting was born. But anyway, at some point I really had to start making a living, So I went into the jingle business. And just to cut a long story short, I did a bunch of jingles from New York, which some of them were pretty big. When I say big, at least they were national, I did a Ford commercial for the Ford Pinto, and that was on the air for about 20 minutes till the Pintos started blowing up. And I don't know if you remember, they had that problem with the gas tanks exploding.
I heard something about that.
Yeah, so they took the commercial off the air. And at one point I just decided, my wife and I decided to move out to California with another guy that I was doing a kind of a club routine with. Our last club was in Queens at the Vinny's Horseshoe Inn and Bamboo Hut. So that's one of the reasons we left. At any rate, we got to California, and I started looking around for jingle companies, and I eventually found these 2 guys that we were all working in another place called Tuesday Productions, which did a lot of jingles. And I got a lot of my chops together. I was in the recording studio pretty much every single day. And when I wasn't doing jingles, I was in there at night doing my own music. And I guess I was there about 6 years, and then my 2 partners and myself decided to form our own music production company. And we called ourselves Patterson Walls and Fox. And we started getting some pretty high-profile jobs, which was kind of unusual since we were in San Diego, and most of the high-profile work was going to New York or Chicago or L.A. But we did some pretty good stuff, as well as some, real low-level stuff like pig drugs and, car dealers and, all the wonderful crap you hear on the air. But we did at one point, most of the credit, if not all of the credit, has to go to my partner, Rick Patterson. He got a connection with CBS, and he's dead now, so I can praise him as much as I want. He won't blush. But he was kind of the John Williams of the group. He loved writing for big orchestras. So he got us this connection with the director of CBS News, and we got a shot at doing, I'm trying to remember now, this is about 20 years ago. We got a shot, we did a demo, he did most of the writing on that thing, I did some of it. I wrote a lot of the bumpers and co-produced all the stuff too with him. But the final product was, something that had to be done by a big orchestra, which he did all the arrangements and everything. And we got the gig, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. For 15 years, we would get checks coming in 4 times a year from a company called BMI, which they basically monitor the airwaves, and anytime something plays, if it falls into the survey, you get paid for that, a certain amount of money. So because Dan Rather was prime time and 5 nights a week, actually 7 nights a week with the the weekend substitutes, it amounted to some pretty good money. So that, and we did a bunch of stuff for NBC. I did trying to remember. I did Eye to Eye with Connie Chung, Public Eye with Brian Gumbel. Of course, those shows folded pretty quickly. Not because of the theme music, I gotta
add. So you have been around. That's that's good. That's good. I thought it was simply the Dan Rather evening news, but you actually have had your hands in a couple other shows on TV, to say the least. I mean, I know you have a background in other things, but it's been more than just evening news with Dan Rather, basically.
Yeah. In fact, we did about 300 pieces of music for NBC. There was a point in time, I guess it was, how many years ago? It must have been about 10 years ago now, where NBC had these cute little animations of their logo, the peacock. And they would show the peacock in different ways, and they would have about anywhere from 3 seconds to 30 seconds worth of music leading up to the NBC with the peacock. And we did about 300 arrangements. If you can imagine how creative you have to be to do 300 arrangements of NBC, it was quite a challenge. But it was great laying on the floor at night watching the TV and just clicking through the channels and going, that's ours, that's ours, that's ours. For a while, we were just all over the place. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. I actually got a question from the chat. This is from Grimnir. He's asking, he would like to know who Mr. Fox voted for during the last election, and if he associates himself with any political ideology. Would you feel comfortable answering that?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with almost anything. I voted for Groucho Marx. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I wasn't happy with either of the two main candidates. I would have voted for Ron Paul if he was actually. No, we didn't vote for Ron Paul. He was. No, I didn't write him in. It was my wife is talking in the background. I apologize. My wife, ladies and gentlemen, that's Naomi Fox on the couch over there.
Yeah, how about you give her a proper introduction there?
Say hi, Neal.
Hi, I'm the one that handles all the business. He does the creative, and I'll just stay in the background here.
Could you hear her?
Yeah, the chat is actually saying hello back to Naomi.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, she actually runs Wire Duck Records. She's the CEO, and she pretty much my business manager and life partner and all those other cliches. Wife, yeah. Wife. She doesn't like life partner. Wife is better. We've been married a long time. But so I skipped the whole thing. Who did I vote for?
Yeah.
There was a guy. I'm only hemming and hawing because I can't remember the guy's name. He was in the Constitution Party out here.
Chuck Baldwin.
That's who it was. And actually, I really didn't even know anything about him. I was doing the whole thing as kind of a protest against the other two candidates. And since I couldn't vote for Ron Paul, this was the next best thing. So that's what I did.
Yeah, that was a lot of people's, unfortunately, that was how a lot of people felt this, a lot of people felt disenchanted and frustrated with the two-party system. And it's unfortunate that Ron Paul was not on the ballot as far as the final election, so to speak. Let's go ahead and switch bases. I don't want to keep talking about sad things, to say the least. What was your inspiration for Fuck the Fed? I mean, where did you do some research and come to a certain conclusion, or did you just go on a whim after watching some YouTube videos? I mean, give me an idea of how this all came about, this Fuck the Fed video and song.
Well, I think my first introduction, I had this little booklet many years ago, like 30, 40 years ago about the Fed, and I read it and I just put it down and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but I didn't pay any attention to it after that. But about, I don't know, maybe a year ago, maybe a little more, I started watching some videos first, trying to remember what, probably the usual stuff that everybody knows, like